I'm working with low amounts of technology here.
What is the setup over there?
He might as well be on his cell phone on a Zoom call.
Zooming into the show. You go from my normal my studio thing.
My car. I hope that's okay.
Hey guys, I'm underneath the overpass here. Dirty Mike and the boys. We got a rented Prius. We're doing this thing in. Welcome to the Money Lap. I kind of look up mid taco bite. You don't know disappointment. Talking all things motorsports by two real drivers.
I appreciate being called a gritty driver.
With many, many years of experience.
We've had to do that other people didn't want to do.
The most dedicated host in the motorsports podcast world.
Weren't we supposed to have somebody come on our show as a guest?
No, we did it.
Did we?
Yes.
Yes, for our 1 year anniversary.
And we definitely know what we're doing. Remember, talk through your mic.
I'm talking past it like this.
Well, if you just pointed it differently. Never mind.
Let's
The
talk about
stand-up
race
mic.
cars. God's
This
sakes.
is our worst show ever. Hello, welcome. It's the Money Lap. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined as always by my good buddy, Landon Castle. I am in Los Angeles this week, post the NASCAR finale in Phoenix. Landon's in Iowa. Don't mind, if you're watching on YouTube, don't mind my lovely setup here. It's a bit janky. We've worked with the technology we have in hand at the time to bring you this show. This is our level of dedication. I'm over here, Landon, because I'm actually going to be commentating on the Gran Turismo World Series this Saturday. It's November 5th on a Wednesday right now, but this Saturday I'll be in downtown LA commentating on this Gran Turismo World Series event, which is a pretty massive sim racing event that they're doing 4 times around the world, which is kind of cool. And this is the Los Angeles one. They reached out to me, asked if I would be interested, and so I'm doing it. Kind of fun.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a commentating on sim racing event in person.
Yeah, and they do a Manufacturers Cup, so it's kind of like these different manufacturers versus each other, and then they do a Nations Cup, and they got a 1,500-person live audience. There's a festival. They've got a concert afterwards from Little Yachty, which is going to be interesting.
Little Yachty.
Yeah, Little Yachty, not
Wow.
Big Yachty. It's Little Yachty.
That's as boomerific of a way you can say the artist's name.
Little Yachty. Sorry.
Okay,
Sorry.
Grandpa. Have you ever named one of his songs?
I have listened to his songs. I'm definitely more of a Lil Uzi Vert guy. If you notice on my Instagram, you'll see him crop up. Lil Peep. I was a big Lil Peep person. Juice WRLD. Big fan of Juice WRLD. So Lil Yachty, I can't name one off the top of my head, but I should. That is a problem. I will know by Saturday. More Lil Yachty. You don't worry. So that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm out here. We appreciate you all listening throughout this season and watching on YouTube. We've been growing like crazy still, Landon. I don't know how or why.
Despite all of our efforts.
Yeah. But despite our best intentions and little effort, we continue to grow. So we appreciate it.
Maybe the Little Yachty will get people to
tune
finally
out.
Shut it off. Yeah.
Yeah, just leave us. Just what are you doing with your time? Why you come to us?
Magic in the Hamptons. Listen to that song by Lil Yachty. One of
that.
It's my favorite one.
Oh, you actually know.
Not really, just that song.
Okay, I'll check it out. Spent plenty of time in the Hamptons. Surprised I haven't heard it. All right. Well, we got to jump into what was a pretty interesting weekend for the NASCAR
It was a championship
finale.
Weekend for the books.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was, and probably, I'd say probably most, the last one of this type of format.
I could feel. Like, I wasn't there. I was in Iowa the whole weekend, but I watched it pretty close. I watched all 3 races. I watched it on social media. I could feel the difference in vibe and energy just from my algorithm. Describe, for someone that was literally in it, not in the races, but in the booth and on site. Tell me, what was the energy there? It had a very... even more last day of school type energy than the normal last day of school that you feel on the last race of the season.
So it's funny you say that because the vibe on the ground, I didn't get as much as on social media where it was kind of the last day of school thing. I think there was a apprehension and anxiety that Corey Heim and Connor Zilisch wouldn't win their respective championships. When Corey Heim won his, I know we made the joke that there was that collective big sigh of relief that you heard was the NASCAR executives. I felt
right. They at least got that. They got one out of the way.
They got one out of the way, and I can confirm, in speaking to one, that was the case. And then, not that they're actively rooting for someone, but when you have such outsized seasons like those two had, it's just so natural to be like, man, this is the flaw in this thing that you really didn't account for.
And vibe-wise, I would say not to favor one or the other, but it did seem like the Corey Heim championship was the one that needed to be an automatic. If the vibe was if Corey Heim didn't win the championship, that was the fluke, right? Connor still kind of needed to earn it, and even though he'd won 10 races, it was deserving year-long champion. That one, I think everybody was still accepting that there was still a race that had to happen. But Heim definitely, I think that's where that sigh of relief for me came from. Even though I wasn't personally sighing, I could feel the collective NASCAR sigh of relief.
So I think, to your point, his had to be an automatic, and he had it. He was the fastest. Then he does the 4 tires, drives by everyone. Incredible move to the bottom. 7 wide, gets the championship. Wholeheartedly deserved. I think in the case, and for him, that was awesome. Good for Corey Heim. No full-time ride next year at this time. He's going to most likely be doing sporadic starts in the Cup Series and potentially Xfinity. So I think that situation had to happen. He won basically half the races on the year, which is insane.
Right.
You had to be the champ, right? And the crazy part about him is you look at some of the races, there's probably about 5 races where he could have won or should have won on top of that. So, he almost could have won every damn race in the series, which is insane. So, I saw him Saturday night, and we even hashed out Daytona, by the way. We hashed it out. I said, you're welcome. Otherwise, you've just been 11. So, but if we shift to, I don't know if there's anything more to dive into trucks. He deserved it. If we shift to Xfinity, this was definitely, after practice, I could see, and I think the whole series could see, that the 2 car was really fast. And I felt like that going into it, I'm like, man, the 88 is going to have to really step up, or the 7, right? But if everyone wants the guy who's won 10 races to be the champ, he's really going to have to step up because of what I saw of the 2 in practice. And when we started the race, I was like, oh, never mind. It's going to all work out. It's going to be fine. But then the 2 found it. They lit it up, and he was by far the fastest car in those last few runs. And I, for Connor, I saw him Saturday night. He and Jesse were out and about, and he's, such a good kid. And I texted him the next morning or Sunday night, sorry. And I texted him and I just said, hey, bud, the thing to know is just because you didn't get the ultimate prize, that doesn't take away from what they accomplished this year. What an insane year, in terms of wins, all that stuff. I know it's basically his last chance to win the Xfinity Championship because he's moving to Cup. He's got that. I also was like, hey, bud, if you want your buddy Jesse to be in Cup, he probably needed this more than you in some respects. So
it's an interesting way to put it.
Yeah, think about it though.
Yeah,
he needed that. He didn't have a 10 race win season. I don't know if he'll ever will with RCR and where they're good and where they sometimes struggle. And so it's he needed that big time.
Yeah,
you need to be top 1% or 0.01% to move yourself towards the Cup Series. And he needed a championship to prove that and have a night like he had where he won a race. He was the fastest car. He passed, Connor for the lead and the win, and straight up just was better than everyone.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that he, pretty much did what Austin Hill has not been able to do for several years at RCR. And that's, I mean, not, I know, I know that's not what I just said, but not to take away what Austin Hill has accomplished at RCR, but it tells you how much with this format, just timing is everything, right? Being right at the right time, being good at the right time is everything. You know, The 21 car obviously getting eliminated because of the penalty took a lot out of it, you know, and then think of all the times the 21 has been in the championship 4, but not performed at the level needed at Phoenix. But Jesse did it.
And I don't even know where Austin finished at Phoenix, but when I looked up often, he was barely in the top 15. So they didn't bring it. Nope. Like he wouldn't have been a factor.
Kind of makes you wonder what the 2 did bring.
Well, I was wondering the same thing. I might have been wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't ask anyone directly, but I sat there and I'm like, you know, and I'm not putting this, you know, I do know that Danny Stockman massaged on that car for a week, so much so that I told the story in the race where he was painting the side skirt bolts, and he actually polished the oil tank, the guys were saying, and that like he literally spent every waking moment with that car through the week trying to just get every little thing he possibly could. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give him a lot of credit, but I do think back the last time we saw a really dominant 2 car was Rockingham. They had overstepped in some areas with the skew. No allegations being made here, just saying. So
I'm going to go beyond just saying and say if I am a crew chief in the championship 4 in any series, I am probably going to cross the line going into that race. How do you not?
Yeah.
How do you not push beyond the issue and put it's kind of a similar philosophy as how we've discussed restarts as the control car. Remember that? For those of you listening, if you've listened to the show, we've talked about the philosophy as with the current rules in the restart zone. If you're the control car, you go early. You go as early as possible. Go a foot before the line. Put it in NASCAR's hands, especially in a late race restart, right? If it's a green, white checkered, you're the control car. You go early. Go a foot before the line, before the zone. Why? Because it puts it in NASCAR's hands to make a judgment call that they don't want to make, right? They don't want to throw a yellow and put someone to the back. They don't want to take a win away. They don't want to do that, right? So I think the same thing works if you're a crew chief in the championship 4 in this format. Like, you need to push the issue in every single area. And obviously where I'm going to back off. I'm not backing off, but like when you're actually making those decisions, you still have to decide what area am I pushing the issue, because you're not just being stupid, right? You don't want to do something that's just blatantly going to get caught. But that is the time to absolutely push the issue in every single area and essentially making a bet that NASCAR is probably going to turn the other cheek to some degree, right? I don't know if they do. I don't know if somebody from NASCAR might be listening to this and being like, what is he talking about? That is ridiculous. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
They look at him pretty thoroughly, but it is not in NASCAR's best interest to throw someone out.
Well, and think about it this way. We all knew it's the last of this format. Mm-hmm. The controversy around it. What is the one thing that they absolutely don't want to happen?
Throw out the winner.
The winner. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
those are the types of things that good crew chiefs take advantage of, right? Yep. And so I'll kind of bookend this statement, this idea with one thing that I pointed out via text message to you. I think it might have been in our group chat. I can't remember. Do you remember what I said about the 2-team and the winner, the pattern? Is Danny Stockman like the only guy at RCR that can win championships for RCR?
It's true. He did it for Austin Dillon.
Yeah, I need somebody to refresh my, because I might be wrong. I don't know.
Well, Randall Burnett obviously did it with Ty Reddick.
Yep, the 2 with Reddick. Yep. But like Stockman is one that has, other than him, Burnett, I don't know. I just, for some reason, I was like, when it was Stockman winning this championship, I'm like, wow, it took Danny Stockman to come back to RCR to get them championships again, to get them fast again.
Yeah. It was impressive, the performance overall. Their pit crew, fastest 4-tire stop of the year in that race. Their last 2 stops were incredibly fast, faster than anyone else out there. They just rose up in every category, whether it's Danny, massaging that car, making decisions, whatever it was. That's what it takes to win.
Don't you love that stuff?
Well, hold on. That's
humans, when it's like pressure's on and humans just take it beyond what is. Yeah, isn't it crazy? I see that stuff when it's late race, like fastest lap, right?
Yep.
One of my favorite memories of that was when Kurt Busch won in heroic fashion at Kentucky. No, wait, did Kurt Busch win that race? Yes.
Yeah, he won the one car.
Yes, in the one car at Kentucky. And he held it wide open through 3 and 4 or something like that in the final laps in the Gen 6 Cup car. And it was just one of those things that is, why was that possible on that lap, but not every lap before it?
Just had to
We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never know. There's too many variables to know.
It's insane. So, anyways, go ahead.
I love that. No, and I think to the point of the 2 team, they rose up in every facet. Jesse rose up. He was also really good there, and Jay McMurray was making fun of me all week about how I kept talking about how good Jesse Love is at Phoenix, and I was like, be wary if he shows up to Phoenix in the Championship 4. And Jamie's like, I don't understand. I'm like, dude, I sat there. I did sim with him. He was a half tenth to a tenth faster than me in the sim often, and I couldn't do what he does in 3 and 4. Just couldn't figure it out. And I was like, he has a knack for that place. And he talked about the week leading up how, he'd won ARCA championships there. He had probably the most experience at Phoenix of any of the tracks, and that he did feel confident in knowing what he wants in the car. He rose up, right? And I was like, everything I saw in practice, and then when the pit crew had that amazing stop and they got in the nighttime and it seemed like they had speed again, I was like, oh yeah, here we go. This is happening. So I think they rose up, and to your point, this was what, when we talked about the playoffs recently, and I told my stories from last year and the year before being in the playoffs, that was the cool part about this design, was there was pressure that would be put on you in a race car that you will not experience really in any other way, that, you're in a must-win position. That doesn't happen. I guess theoretically through points, that could be a position that you have to win to keep it alive or win the championship, something like that. And the other person has to finish in some certain position, not just no matter what you do, if you win a race, or in this case, the Championship 4, you win, you are the champ. That's the end of the story, right? And that was a beautiful thing, I felt like, in a lot of respects. Now, obviously, we've found all the other flaws and all the other problems that opens up, and the can of worms that we've discussed for the last 6 months ad nauseum. But that, I felt like, was a rare thing, and the rare chance to see a team, a driver, a pit crew all rise up like they did for Jesse Love and the 2 team. And it's not to discredit his championship in any way. That's the game that was in front of them. The 88 knew the same game, and they played it exactly played it exactly the way it needs to be played to win a championship. And so it is theirs. I felt for Connor. That was tough to see. I know he really wanted that. I know that, he felt like his year was leading towards that with all he's been through between the broken back, the broken collarbone, obviously the Kyle Larson win in his car, me winning with him, everything that team had been through, the 18 top 5s in a row, which was insane. But in this, in that format, it wasn't to be. And I think I tried to stress this to both of them, but I know I said where I feel like Jesse needed it more than him. In 10 years, when they're both in Cup, scene for Cup wins, they'll laugh about this and be like, yep, we equally had big years in different ways, right? Mm-hmm. So that mattered for both of them to get to that position and to have the chance to be at the top level. And I thought Jesse Love's speech at the banquet was excellent. I watched it live, very emotional, from the heart, and it was a really powerful speech. So it's good to see. Yeah. Then they both went up there and sang, Sweet Caroline. Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, the wedding song. They sang the typical wedding song karaoke, so that was great. Those 2 have a ton of personality. They're cool dudes. I've gotten to know them a lot better over the last year or so, and really enjoy hanging out with them. They're going to be fun to watch going forward. So that was, I think, for the fans. Back to our format discussion. Obviously, they were like, what the heck? But it is what it is. We lead into the Cup Series where...
So did we skip trucks completely?
We talked about trucks. We talked. What do we need to say? 7 wide pass. Yeah, there was the 81 should have pitted. I don't know what the hell had a tire rub. Whatever. Screw it. That's the shit that happens.
The only other thing I was, and we were texting about this in real time. I could not believe that Majeski took the outside twice in a row, like he did in the closing laps of the race.
Analytics will tell you it wins 60% of the time versus obviously 40 on the bottom.
On a late race restart?
Not in the late, but that's the funny part. So that is almost, if you watch last year's Xfinity race, the inside or the outside was prevailed in every restart until the last two when Allgaier was on the bottom. Then it prevailed each time. But the stats are kind of skewed because early in the race, for whatever reason, the outside works. And then you get to the late race portion, and the outside does not work.
This was like the reason I brought that up, and I'm so glad you rattled off stats that just played even more into my belief here. Is this was for me, right, as a low-level Xfinity driver, whatever you want to call it, this was part of my process at several racetracks where if the preferred lane was the preferred lane throughout the race by 1 row or more, right? That's typically how these teams sort of define the preferred lane, is by how much. If it's a preferred lane by a full row, it's almost certain that preferred lane almost switches at the end of the race when the pressure's on. So if the preferred lane is the outside all race long, and that's more specifically when the preferred lane is the outside by more than a row. When it's the outside the whole race long, you can almost be certain that in the closing restarts of the race, you want to be on the inside if you're 2 or 3 rows back. I was really surprised to see Majeski take the outside twice in a row like that. Now, I don't know if it would have made a big difference given how big tires were. I don't know if the 11 could have gotten him, but...
Yeah, I think when the 11 went 7 wide to the bottom and wrapped the wall perfectly, about 150 feet lower down the asphalt than anyone that was running on the track, not much you're going to do to hold him off whatsoever. So I can see why Majeski did it and why he felt like maybe that was his best opportunity being on the top. Think about Larson, who ended up on the top in that last restart of Cup, which we're going to get into here, but he was able to prevail on 2 tires there. So some other things out of both of those, the Xfinity side, Connor Zilisch, because he didn't win the championship, does not get enough access points, ACCUS, which is basically the FIA of the U.S., whatever the hell these guys do. No one's really sure, but nonetheless, they seem to control a lot of stuff.
No idea.
Nobody knows what any of them do. No one's ever met them. No one's ever heard of these people, but they apparently control the licensing system of anything outside of the U.S., could be in the FIA and even in the U.S. with IMSA. Nonetheless, he did not get enough points to be able to go do a Cadillac World Endurance Championship hypercar test that he was supposed to do. So that was one of the other consequences of not winning the championship. But he's still going to go test the hypercar at Daytona for the Rolex 24 because I'm assuming he will be in one of those Cadillacs for the Rolex 24. So that was a lot of words, but that also happened. Some other news that occurred this weekend, there's been some changes to the eligibility of Cup drivers racing in what will become the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series, which is obviously formerly known as Xfinity, and the Truck Series. In O'Reilly Auto Parts, you can do 10 races per season, but you are not allowed to do the cutoff or playoff races in a championship race, so who knows what that means with the incoming format. And then it's 8 races in trucks.
Are they not doing the Dash for Cash next year?
I don't know, Josh. They haven't announced.
Okay. Okay. I just know that previously they were ineligible on those races.
No, but they were allowed to. You were allowed to in trucks now, I think, and the Xfinity stuff, I want to say. Also, one big change, though, I'm pretty sure out there. Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the things that kind of fell through the cracks that no one's discussed is they're going to now allow 17-year-olds at 1 mile or less in the Xfinity, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series.
And road courses.
Interesting.
And road courses. Wow. Yeah. So I didn't love that. I'll be honest. I heard about this a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty opposed, and I know why it's happening, and you'll see why here soon. But I felt like the Xfinity Series, that going to 16 years old in the Truck Series really cheapened the Truck Series in a lot of respects. Mm-hmm. And I felt like 18 was a good place to be for Xfinity, considering the seriousness and the level of that championship. I'm glad they didn't go to 16. That would have been ridiculous, as I'd heard a couple weeks ago, and I even had a discussion with a current Xfinity driver that was a rookie this year, and he said, I hope they don't go to 16. I did. Truck Series starts at 16, and I was absolutely not prepared or ready, and I should never have been in a truck. He said this. He was like, I don't understand why we're going younger. I believe there's a certain driver that will be announced in doing Xfinity that this was helping out in some respects, but I don't know. I don't like that. I think motorsports is different than other sports in that respect, and I also believe what it does is just continually can cheapen the product in some respects if you let that go much further. 17 is maybe a good cutoff, but anything, when I'd heard 16 for Xfinity, I was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that?
Yeah.
No way.
Well, I mean, it's all about the kids these days, man. We got to take care of these kids. The kids, the only Xfinity car that these kids need really is an Xfinity car from SpoilerDiecast.com.
Yeah.
Get your kid what they want for Christmas. Come on up. SpoilerDiecast.com, one of the fastest growing diecast and racing merch companies out there, and for good reason. They are shipping same or next day. Your order will not sit in limbo forever. They have a massive selection. We updated this last week. I think over 2,400 products in stock, mostly NASCAR. So they've got a little bit of everything. And right now, we're still doing the free shipping on orders over $100, and you get a free NASCAR t-shirt of a random driver if you just comment your preferred size in the order notes using promo code MONEYLAP. But I know that we'll have a Black Friday specials hopefully coming up here soon from SpoilerDiecast.com. So whether you're hunting down a rare piece or trying to get your teenager into an Xfinity car, go to SpoilerDiecast.com and use promo code MONEYLAP. And until NASCAR lowers the age to 16, you're just going to have to go there and get them a diecast instead.
Way to connect it all. That was exceptional.
That was all right. That was
great job. God, what a showman. You were born for this. Loved Spoiler Diecast. Use code MONEYLAP. Help us out. They are growing. We're growing somehow. It's a great relationship. We love it. And they continue to surprise me with what they pull off. And people walking up to me at the track recently being like, hey, I bought this thing at Spoiler Diecast. Great customer service. They seem awesome. To be really on it and respond quickly. So definitely go to them for your diecast and racing merch needs. They're just very, very cool. Hey, Landon. Shout out to our one listener, Denny Hamlin. If I had a beer right now, I'd pour it out for him.
Mm-hmm.
I've never, while doing pit reporting, really rooted for someone quite like I was in the last third of that race. And, for all the years I've been on TV or on this show and said, it's Denny's year until it isn't. It was Denny's year this year. You felt it, all the surrounding chaos between the lawsuit. He has a race team of his own now that's literally suing NASCAR. The settlement talks are happening the week leading up and continuing on there. Knowing that he is he's always better in chaos. The sad, heart-wrenching thought of what his dad is going through and all that his dad has done for him to get to this level and to help him live this dream of being a professional race car driver at the highest level of NASCAR, getting to 60 wins this year, which was a goal he set because it seemed more obtainable and more, I guess, knowing the way the format was, that it would be more difficult to say, hey, I want to get X amount of championships. He's on, the top 10 of the all-time win list. He's the leader of the all-time win list without a championship. And then he goes to Phoenix. He wins the pole in an absolutely stellar qualifying performance. He's all pumped about it, and you're just sitting there going, if that speed is in the race, this team's got it. This is the year. Gets in the race. He is a half a second faster per lap early on the runs than his competitors. He could blitz off to a 3-second lead or more in a matter of just a handful of laps. It was his to win. And then with 3 to go, we've had tire issues through the whole race. William Byron has a tire issue, gets in the wall, caution out, and thus starts the most gut-wrenching thing to watch. We were all texting. Obviously, I was in the moment there and, felt sick watching it go down. Our one listener, Denny, had that, in my opinion, locked up, and it was taken away from him. And in the weirdest part of this whole discussion we've been having for 6 months, the probably most deserving car over the whole season, if him or the 24, that being Kyle Larson, wins the championship. But for some reason, it felt more like, nope, this was Denny's championship and you stole it from him. Where do we start here? How do we unpack this one?
I don't know. It felt like I don't know if we want this conversation to go. Do you want this conversation to go into format discussions, like championship in general? Or just like you want to analyze the race in that moment?
I think we need to analyze that moment. You and I have had some discussions about it. I did see Denny Sunday night when he congratulated Kyle Larson. I went to the championship, the parties everyone had, which was a lot of fun. And I walked up to him and I just gave him a big hug. I just felt so bad. And I think everyone there did. It was a wild sight. And I just felt like the whole collective of the NASCAR garage, the fan base, found ourselves rooting for Denny Hamlin to finally get that championship. And what it came down to was this pit stop. When the green-white checker comes out, or the final caution with 3 to go, they got a pit. The tires are literally blowing up. So you can't take that risk of even staying out. They're falling off a ton. The question is 2 or 4. You had the 5 and the 19 do 2 tires to restart before. They didn't fall way back, but they fell back. Then you think, well, they maybe won't do 2. The 5 does 2. It was an audible that Cliff called about 15 pit stalls before their pit box, and was almost caught his guys off guard in some respects. That means he's on left side tires that have gone further than probably anyone thought they could go. He does 2. You have a host of other cars that do tires. You have some, like Keselowski, that stay out. And the 11, pitted in the first pit stall, does 4 tires.
Mm-hmm. I believe that was where the championship was lost. And I haven't seen anybody talk about it yet. Which is fine, right? I appreciate Denny for not finger pointing, or there's no reason to blame or anything. But, the point blank analysis of this is that the 11 team made a mistake by not responding to what their number one competitor was doing. All they had to do was do the same thing as the 5 car. And they had plenty of time to call an audible and only take 2 tires after the 5 car took 2 tires. The 5 car's pit stall was 27, I think. I looked back at the tape, paused and took a screenshot. The 11 team had no less than 16 to 20 pit stalls worth of space on pit road in order to call an audible and take 2 tires instead of 4. and they didn't do it. I actually might have spoke to somebody that's kind of under that umbrella and know that there was a lot of chaos on the radio with the pit road light stuff changes, getting into the box. I think Chris Gabehart was down by the 5 stall. I know, some other people on that team saw it, but for some reason the communication just never got through, or it either never got through or the decision was made. But obviously the decision
really.
Mm-hmm.
You think the communication didn't get there?
I think it's possible that the communication didn't get there.
Wow. Because I was told the War Room obviously knew. They've got Chris Gabehart down there looking at the 5. He probably knew, but with the way radios work and everything, maybe they didn't get the info. Because I think the number everyone said is they had, roughly 12 seconds to make that decision and call an audible when the 5 took 2. And I think, I think in your thought, hold on, I want to break down your thought process a little bit because, devil's advocate for a second, the common thought process when you have an absolutely dominant, faster car than everyone else is don't lose it on strategy, right?
Yep.
Don't ever put yourself in a position where you've overthought it and over-strategized and you end up losing a race, right? That's when we're talking about a race. Well, in that conventional thinking, you say, okay, the 11's dominant car, we take 4 tires, we're going to be fine. We'll probably try and still win this thing. But what you pointed out was the decision there was simply to cover the 5.
That's it.
That's all you had to do. The 19's out of it. The 24 is obviously out of it. You just have to cover the 5. If you start right in front of him, it puts him in a decision to make some sort of move, but you're just trying to cover him and not give up track position. When you have the track position and you've got the pit stall position, you won in qualifying.
The mental error for me that I see there that happened, that lost this championship, not necessarily lost the race, because they didn't need to win the race. That's my point that I'm about to make. The thing that lost the championship to me is that the 11 team or Chris Gale or whoever it was that makes the final call, right? I'm assuming it's Chris Gale, was focused on the wrong thing when they hit pit road. His number one focus should have been the 5 car, right? His focus was somewhere else. It must have been on winning the race or something else, because as soon as that caution came out and he starts assessing what he needed to do, the assessment should have been, how do I beat the 2 guys that I need to beat, right? Because the 24 wrecked. How do I beat the 5 and the 19, right? And it should have not taken him long during caution laps before pit road open for them to determine we do whatever the 5 does. We have track position on them. We have pit road leverage on them, right? Because he's 20 plus pit stalls ahead of his next competitor. Neither of them are 5 or 10 pit stalls away. Both the 5 and the 19 are 20 plus pit stalls behind them. So they have track position on them. They have pit road leverage on them, and they have a faster car than those guys, straight up. Whether you're taking 4 tires, 2 tires, or no tires, they still have a half a second faster car than the 5 and the 19, right? So the mission, the moment that caution came out, the mission was to beat the 5 and the 19. The decision, the strategy for that mission should have been to, like you said, cover the 5 and 19. That's all I need to do. Same thing as them. I'm going to let them make the decision for me. The only hard decision for the 11 to make, in my opinion, in hindsight, right? Armchair quarterback on a Wednesday, that's easy for us. Sorry, Chris Gale, if you're listening. That's what we get to do because we have a show. The only hard decision the 11 team had to make, in my opinion, was whether to pit or not to pit.
Yeah.
Right? That was the only hard decision. That was the only decision they had that they didn't have leverage on. Right? Because they could have obviously pitted, and then the 5 and 19, or the whole field could have stayed out behind them. Right? But they chose to pit, and everybody, the majority of the field chose to pit after them. That's the only hard decision. From there, it actually should have been easy. It should have just been, watch the 5 and 19. You see the 19 first, he took 2. Okay, I'm leaning towards 2. 5 pits, he takes 2. All right, 2 tires it is.
19 took 4.
Yep.
He put but did he put scuffs?
But they
on?
were scuffs. Yeah, they didn't even have new tires.
Right. So that's
so they were out of it.
Sorry, I kind of minimized why I was discounting the 19 this whole time.
Yeah.
Anyways, the 19 you should have been handled on the 19 because they're your teammates. So you should know more intimately anyways what they have going on. And they had scuffed tires. They were almost not a factor. Right.
Yep.
So the 5 car, like the decision should have been easy. And it just should have been when you see the 5 car leave their pit stall after taking 2 tires, the audible gets called. That's it. 2 tires. And you come off pit road. Doesn't matter if you win the race or not. Doesn't matter if 10 cars stayed out or if it doesn't matter. You're just trying to beat the 5.
Parker, were you covering the 5?
I was.
Did that last stop? I thought I saw a tweet.
Why didn't you tell Chris Gale?
Was it?
Was it? Should have ran. I was too far away. I was in Chris Gabehart's spot.
Did they put scuffed right sides on? Because I remember a tweet coming out that at some point or another, I don't know if it was the second to last stop or the last stop, that the 5 put on scuffs.
I think they were scuffs, but they were not. They weren't the qualifiers. I feel like they were the ones they rolled through the pits or through the, like rolled through the garage on or something like that. I think they were a little better, but I do believe they didn't have right side stickers because they had done
I'm picturing
rights.
the rerun of this race. You get to go back in time and do it one more time. Thanks, Marty. Yeah, this is Parker. We're seeing the 5 car come in for his final stop of the race of this green, white checkered. Looks like 2 tires for the 5 car. That's right, Chris Gale. Are you listening? 2 tires for the 5 car. 2 tires.
2 tires.
Cliff Daniels shows that's 2 on the 5 car. 2 tires.
2 tires for Chris Gale. 2 tires. Denny Hamlin. 2 tires. Back to you guys.
Back to you, Chris Gale. I mean, back to you in the booth.
No, to Marty. Yeah. Oh man, I definitely was rooting hard. I mean, I appreciate, Kyle Larson getting another championship, and I think that's big for him. And I talked about it at the beginning of the show when I did our whips, and I said, hey, look, the basis of my whip was that this is the most naturally talented race car driver in NASCAR. He's considered probably one of the best 2 in the world between him and Max Verstappen. And the big thing that people are able to poke fun at is that he only has 1 championship, and that he has the chance to join some of his heroes and Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon with multiple. Yeah. And he's done that, and I think he's obviously done it in a really incredibly difficult format. I don't think, for Cliff Daniels, when they blew the right front tire, were a lap down, like anyone that counted them out, Cliff Daniels was like on the radio, like, we are not out of this. And even when they took 2 tires and fell back, he was like, we're not out of this. And that guy just had an immense belief that was really powerful and incredible to listen to, that they still had a shot. And sure enough, he was right. But
I want to dwell on that for just a second, and a couple things on Hendrick. So first of all, I had to laugh at Jeff Gluck, our beloved Jeff, because he had a tweet in the race when Kyle blew that tire, and it was like, Kyle Larson blows a right for tire. He's out of it. It was like, nope.
Nobody, you haven't seen this stuff before.
And the other quick point I'll make before the point that we can expand on briefly, but it was, I don't know why it didn't occur to me or didn't think of this until I saw it. Kyle Larson is only the 3rd driver at Hendrick to win multiple championships for Hendrick Motorsports. Some pretty special company that he's in there, with obviously Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson. And the third point, the point that I wanted to make, that is just amazing about Hendrick Motorsports, and is Ray Evernham, Chad Knaus, and Cliff Daniels are like a lineage of crew chiefs that have those 3 are carbon copies of each other. They are so similar. And I mean, Hendrick has a lot of different crew chiefs and personalities in their organization. Obviously, Alan Gustafson has been in that position and at that organization for going on 2 decades, if not longer. But like, the most success that organization has seen seems like it's with those 3 people, and they have such similar personalities and ways they go about things. And I don't know how Hendrick, what Hendrick does to get those guys, but it's amazing.
That's a great point. It's a great point. And it's funny because, hey, by the way, did you know I was at the championship party the other night, Sunday night? Because I'm going to tell a story again from it.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought you should know. I was there. I talked to Cliff Daniels for a while. I talked to Chad Knaus, and one of my comments to both of them was that they were like the same person.
Yeah, they are.
Like, their determination, their a little bit of OCD, a little bit of perfectionism.
The way they balance it, though, like
yep,
the way they balance the Type A personality that can be easily mistaken for being a prick.
Yep.
Right. With great leadership, because I have experienced in my racing career, I've experienced both, and even with those specific guys, more Chad Knaus than any of them. I haven't worked a ton with Cliff Daniels, and I know Ray Evernham personally, but like Chad Knaus, I've worked a lot with, and then I have worked in my career with crew chiefs that had a lot of what Chad Knaus had, but what they didn't have was the balance of both leadership and like drive and vision. And Chad, to a lot of people, was like he could be a prick or he was tough or but he just had this amazing way to bring you into the vision. I actually recently told a story of when I drove the 48 car at Michigan, but it wasn't the 48. It was built out of that shop. They put a 51 on it. Blah, blah, blah. Those are details. At the end of the day, I drove Jimmy Johnson's race car in a cup race at Michigan, and Chad Knaus set the car up. Like, that was because they were trying to test something with that specific car, and I was their test driver at the time. And, Chad Knaus, like, the calls that he made to me on Friday night after qualifying to go over with me the setup for Saturday and the direction they were going, what they were trying to accomplish, like bringing me as a driver in on his vision for what they wanted out of that car, right? Like the whole purpose for why they were testing what they were testing was amazing, right? And I've worked with plenty of crew chiefs that had that same skill and had that same vision that Chad had, but didn't have the ability to articulate it to their driver, right? Didn't have the ability to articulate it to their team, right? To their engineers, let alone forget the driver, like to bring the team in on what's in their brain and what they're trying to accomplish. And so there's something special about those three guys because they're so similar, and they all, were kind of brought up overlapping on together, right? And Cliff Daniels, it's like when I see him, when I listen to him on the radio, it's like I hear Chad Knaus, right? It's amazing, and I hope that Cliff, if he were ever hear that he would take that as a compliment, because it is in the most sincere way. So that's just such an amazing thing to me that Hendrick has been able to identify and put these guys in that position.
Do you know there's only two crew chiefs in my 8 years of doing the pit reporting thing that I've always felt like I had to be very buttoned up, very direct, and very conscious of their time when we do that deal on Sunday mornings where we all go talk to the crew chiefs, ask about what do you think about today, blah, blah. The only two I've ever felt this like pressure when you walk in there and ask if it's a good time or when they have time, blah, blah, is Chad Knaus and Cliff Daniels. And I do think they've appreciated it because my conversations with both of them in that capacity when they've been crew chiefs would be at most 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. But you came in prepared. Here's my questions. Got their answers. All right, you go do your thing. I'll do my thing. Like, boom. And, there's that level of detail to where down to those couple minutes where their day is so planned out. And so he has this checklist he's going to go through to make sure that they're in the right position, that it's just those little things, reminds me of the quote as how you do how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right. Mm-hmm. And they are the embodiment of that to me in a lot of respects, those guys. And I said this to Chad. I said, you are the type of guy that whether you had chose to go into finance, tech, entrepreneurship, or racing, you were probably going to be successful because of all the qualities you mentioned. And I think that's there's people like that obviously Rick Hendrick finds, who are these just, A+ people who are going to be high performers in whatever endeavor they choose. And that's a talent that Rick Hendrick has, and the culture he's built and all the things he's done that enable him to find those people to convince them that they want to work for him and to, keep them and give them empower them to do what they do. And so as you and I are in different stages of our life now, past, being full-time race car drivers, I think you and I both have a lot more respect for that. And
absolutely,
an understanding and a reading for what you're doing at the dealership, for some of the stuff I'm doing in my life. And I just think like more and more you start to learn that there's, part of the talent out there is not even being the talent. It's just being the person that can identify and, get the talent to work with you or even for you, sort of thing. And that's a talent in itself. So, no, I 100% agree for all the things you said. And it's just fascinating. I if I go back to that restart there, if we want to go back to the racing side, and Josh, I think you could bring it up. I just want to point out that, compared to the truck series where you had Corey Heim drive past 100 trucks on the bottom and go by everyone, I think that's far easier in those. And that the opportunity there in Cup was difficult. So I want to break down this restart because I just thought this was interesting. So you have Denny Hamlin back there, and he gets to the rear bumper of whoever that was in front of him. I couldn't quite tell, maybe the 21 car of Josh Berry. Gets by him easily, but when he goes to the bottom, the 22 goes down as well, and it just killed his ability to get off the corner. And at that moment when he didn't clear the 22 and I saw the 5 get to the outside of Priest, I knew it was over.
Yeah.
And
well, it just seemed like he didn't have that cut that he needed in that one moment, and it was like that was the moment.
They obviously pumped the tires up. One of the things you do for qualifying pace, right? You pump them up, but it just didn't work for him. And I've seen that happen to race cars before, where you think, oh, this thing's just going to absolutely fly, and for whatever reason it doesn't. And Larson had that one moment down in the 3 on the first lap of the restart where he was 3 wide with Priest and Blaney, and I'm like, oh, this could be bad, and then he got away with it. But if he even had a touch, if Priest just moves up the track an ounce and touches him, Denny can get there, but it just wasn't to be. Denny officially finished, what was it? Sixth.
And I don't even, I guess I'm not even trying to analyze the restart too much, not to completely count Denny out, but I just, the race was lost on pit road, like we talked about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just wanted to show why it was an impossible task he was given, basically. It was an impossible task. And the that's not to discount what Larson did where he went to the outside. I asked him about that afterwards. I said, how the hell did you know it was going to stick out there? He said, when we did the 2 tires initially, he kind of gingerly went in there and was like, wait a second, I got tons of grip. And so when he went on this restart, he knew from doing 2 tires before that they had that grip because they did it back to back, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah, so he just knew there was going to be the grip out there, and it stuck. And I was like, man, that's impressive. Cliff Daniels runs up to me, though, at the championship stage, by the way, and he goes, dude, I didn't even know where we finished. He's like, Larson gets out of the car, and he's like, dude, he goes, where did we finish? He goes, 3rd. I almost won. And he's like, what? I didn't even look. So last thing we should dive into, by the way, nobody knew who won the race because it just wasn't the thing that anyone paid attention to.
No.
At the end of that.
The broadcast didn't even acknowledge.
I mean, but how could you not? I mean, how could you? You know what I mean? With what was happening there and what was going on. It's funny.
It doesn't, and that doesn't happen very often in this era. I think that there's only been twice in this era, a couple times in this era
where the second time.
Yeah, the race winner wasn't the champion, so it's not. I'm not really criticizing the broadcast at all. This was the most egregious time that the broadcast did not acknowledge the winner. So this is my personal experience. Broadcast did not acknowledge the race winner that I could tell, and I wasn't even looking for it. So they might have said it, and I just didn't hear it. So that's one. I didn't know who won the race until I looked on Twitter to see who won the race moments after the race. And then on top of that, I didn't even know anything about what Brad Keselowski did until the next day when you texted me and you were talking about Brad Keselowski, and I'm like, wait a second, what? I'm gonna have to go back and watch the tape. And I went back and watched the tape. I didn't even realize Brad had a 5-car length lead going into turn 3.
Had it won.
Just had to finish the lap.
Missed the corner.
Missed it.
Just missed it.
Completely.
Corner's over there. And he's going up there, and you're like, wait a second, bud.
Completely missed it.
So
I didn't know any of that until you texted it to me. I just thought that, whatever, Blaney won.
So I talked to Lee Diffie about that, by the way, on the call, and he said, look, you have to make a choice at that point, right?
For sure.
And he's such an amazing commentator, and he said the story at that time was that Denny Hamlin's going to lose this championship on a race that he absolutely dominated, right?
That's the story.
And I agree with him. It's the story you tell.
Bite.
And that's the story, and that's what will be remembered from this race. For Blaney and Team Penske, they played spoiler, and they once again were, obviously had a very good car at Phoenix, which is incredible.
So
they weren't the story.
In Fantasyland by saying this, but Blaney has won at Phoenix before. It's Blaney, right? Like they win multiple races. Could you imagine the snub of all snubs for Brad Keselowski had he won the championship or won the race and not gotten mentioned, not even gotten mentioned, no interview, no, literally it didn't happen. A team that
breaks a winless streak, a year and a half winless streak.
Yeah, breaks a year and a half winless streak. RFK is a team that they have to scrap for everything, right? Because they're not the number one key partner for team, but they have good corporate partners. They have a great, sales and marketing team. They have great activation, great social media. Could you imagine that snub of all snub? Well, it's probably happening now, right? Because they finished second and was leading. They probably have a sponsor that was like, man, that kind of sucks. Like what more are we supposed to do?
I know. Well, I felt bad for Brad. He came up to me as I was just about to interview Chase Briscoe, or waiting to interview Chase Briscoe. And obviously we got to get the championship 4 right on there. And they were all fighting for it at one point or another. And he taps me on the shoulder and he's like, hey, you need me. And just with timing and all that has to go into the end of the year with the championship stage and everything, our producer was like, hey, we really can do the championship 4 in the winter, right? And that's what we got to do because we got to get the winner as well. So second place was going to be tough to do. And so I had to tell him, like, hey, man, sorry, you're not going to be getting an interview. I was like, I felt bad. But that is, there's only so much time. You got all those different stories, and you got to do the winner, which obviously Brian Blaney was interviewed. And you got the championship 4, and so there's only so many of us on pit road and so many cameras, and it's just the simple logistics of live TV and the choices that have to be made. So good for him to be in that position. And I thought this quote that he had on Twitter post, he does these Q&As every year, and he had an interesting quote, Landon, where we've talked about on here. He was asked, is it real? Could a team that's not Hendrick, Penske, or Joe Gibbs win the championship? And he said, realistically, no, with the OEMs and the info that they give to teams versus don't. So he basically kind of went to our point, and to go further on that point, there was a stats that came out from this season that there was only 8 races that were not won by Hendrick, Penske, or Joe Gibbs, and 5 of those were SVG. And I believe one of those is actually Penske because it's the Wood brothers.
No kidding.
So the parity is not quite there. With that, I did see some other interesting things where most drivers had a top 5 finish, basically, and that there was 35 drivers that started every race, which is the most in a long time. So there's this weird juxtaposition between there is parity, but there isn't, and it's kind of reverted to the mean in some respects with all that. For Denny, he was quoted after the race by saying, "In this moment, I never want to race a car again. My fun meter is pegged." Obviously,
don't blame him for that.
Don't blame him at all. I literally, when I watched him pulling up there and was looking at him sitting in that car, I thought to my mind, and I don't mind saying this, I thought he was going to get out and say, "I'm done.
I quit."
I quit. I really, really, the way his face looked and just how long he sat in there, I said, he's thinking for a second, do I say that I'm done here? And with all that's going on, I hope that's a temporary sentiment and then he comes back, because I think with the way things are going with the championship format, whether it's going to be a 10-race chase or a 36-race format, he probably has another chance at one here if he keeps up this level of performance, which I don't see a reason he won't.
Well, and the season-long format actually could benefit the way he runs.
Oh, 100%. I know it didn't this year, but he also, remember, he skipped a race. He skipped Mexico. So,
right.
Yeah. you won't be doing that in a 36-race deal. I think that absolutely could benefit him in a lot of respects, and just being the veteran he is and the way he can point race. So I think that would that maybe that's the way he comes. It all comes full circle, and he's the next 36-race champion in some respects. What else did we want to get into?
There was a lot of talk about the overtime being an issue.
I think that's BS.
Yeah.
Okay, so all the people that want to fight overtime, of all the hills to die on, that is actually one of the greatest innovations in all of NASCAR rules. Because for all the people who have to go to these events and how much it costs, and the people that invest on TV, if you have a mechanism that's become so, I think, perfected in a lot of ways, to all but guarantee at least a green flag finish of some sort, except in rare instances, then I think you have to do everything in your power to do that. And yes, I'm a person who has been burned from a big, momentous win in my life by a green-white checker, right? I still think it is actually, of all the things, it has actually been a great addition, and that it should stay. I don't know where. I think that is just an overreaction to what happened to Denny, obviously, but that is not one of the problems.
It's not. I would happily entertain any kind of variation to the overtime rules, or the time, the number of laps in overtime or whatever, but not at the expense of finishing a race under green.
No.
And I understand, I think any comparison to the Indy 500 and their rules and the sanctity of that is actually a completely different conversation, because it's a totally different conversation to talk about a singular race that has, that is steeped in tradition and identity and branding and all that stuff, and you do it once a year, versus week over week over week over week.
Yep.
So it is, granted, it is a little annoying when we go consecutive weeks in the Cup Series or in NASCAR in general, and it just seems like the races are nothing but green-white checkers. That is annoying. I don't know if you share the same opinion, but I don't like feeling like all I have to do is tune into the last 20 minutes of a race to know what happened.
What was your viral tweet this week?
Oh, yeah.
So good.
New championship format idea. We just wait till November and do a green-white checkered. I mean, yeah, that was me sticking up for Denny Hamlin, which is funny because that in itself, in my tweet following it was, oh, wait a second, are you telling me the guy that won the championship actually scored the most points all season? Which is also hilarious. That just tells you the frustration about that green-white checkered is a microcosm of the championship format in general. You have the broader debate over the championship format, season long versus, should it be decided by one race, all the way down to deciding one race and be like, well, that guy led the most laps and had the fastest car. Should it be decided by a green-white checkered? So it's just funny that it was one of those Russian dolls of an argument that it just scales all the way out to however you want. So, but yeah, that's, I don't. Overtime is not even on my radar.
Nope.
Stages are. Get rid of stages.
Stage breaks.
Stages at the super speedways for sure. Stage breaks. Get rid of them. Stage breaks.
Getting rid of stage breaks. Yes.
I would have no problem getting rid of stage breaks. I've watched some old races recently where they just run around, green flag stop after green flag stop. I'm kind of like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
But for more, let's dive into the next topic off of all this. Congratulations to the 5-team, Kyle Larson, Cliff Daniels, everyone there for being the champs. Denny, if you've made it this far, we still love you. The viewership for this weekend has been the talk of the other second half of this year has been the ratings. There was a 1.44 rating, which is 2.774 million people watching. To put this in context, at the beginning of the playoff format in 2014, that race at Homestead, Miami got 5.223 million people watching. It's not quite, done what they had hoped. Who knows? We don't know. They could have been lower by now. In some respects, you never know. NASCAR as a whole this season was 14% down in overall ratings the whole season, which is exactly what they said in their State of the Union or State of the Sport that they expected from the new TV package, which had streaming and more cable races than before, right? If you look at it, you went from a majority of Fox and NBC races to a majority of FS1, obviously a new streaming partner in Amazon, TNT being a cable partner, and USA.
What's weird is even the network
cable
races seem to be down on views, though.
Yeah, but you have to think that if you're not building that momentum of people invested in it and that sort of thing, it just they're not catching it like they were before. So with that, NASCAR Man on X does this great roundup of all the average television viewers for auto racing in America. And with the conclusion of the NASCAR Cup Series, all 38 were above 1 million, of course. That would be a disaster if they weren't, but they got close there one time. There was no rainouts, so that helped. The NASCAR Xfinity Series, 21 races over 1 million viewers.
That was
to put that in context, F1 so far this year, 17, IndyCar 5, NHRA 2, and ARCA 1 race over 1 million viewers in 2025. The last race for the Xfinity Series this weekend at Phoenix, 1.033 million, and peaked at 1.1 million, up against Game 7 of the World Series, which had about 30 million viewers.
Side note,
Pretty
what
wild.
an incredible World Series. Just
Oh my
shouting
God.
it out. Oh my
I love
gosh.
baseball. Oh my gosh, that was
Yeah.
baseball.
I saw the last inning, but that was
One
wild.
thing, kind of play the long game here. Somebody put a reminder in your phone and bring this up to me in however many years until this TV contract is up. So
6
we've
more
got
years.
kind of two different things happening here. You have Xfinity that is on CW, right?
Yep.
Tons of homes, network television, basically, right? Is it not
Yep.
how you would describe
No, it is
that?
network. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is a free-to-air network.
And then you have the Cup Series that's going this route of, they're taking the guaranteed money, but going on to challenger networks or smaller networks to, essentially blazing their own trail, streaming, yada, yada, yada. Let's kind of catch back up 6 years from now and see what the result is.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have one that is going down in ratings, and we all knew that was going to happen. Right? And then you have another one that's going up. And so I just, in a general gauge of popularity and health of the sport, the two sports within the sport, the two series within the sport here, let's catch up in 6 years and see what the end result of this is.
That will be
And does it
interesting.
affect NASCAR's decision-making for the next TV deal?
That is going to be interesting. And remember, the NASCAR has launched that Fast channel, which, the banquet was on last night on Tuesday, November 4th. So that was all broadcast on the Fast channel live. And, obviously with the CW side, the production is all done by NASCAR Productions, who have done a stellar job. Shout out to that whole team I worked with this whole year. One of the most fun years I've had in TV in my life. Who had all did an amazing job with that broadcast and production throughout the year. All 33 races, same production crew, same production team, and basically, combining to have outsized results. The Xfinity Series ended up 10% up year over year and the highest ratings in 4 years. So pretty cool. We just got to do some cleanup on the NASCAR news. There's been a lot that happened. Yep.
Real quick, before that, I did want to shout out the fact that on Prime got the 10th most viewed NASCAR Cup Series race on a with 2.72 million at Charlotte.
Well, I think streaming, especially those streaming partners like that who can promote it to a lot of people is a key great thing. I think the cable situation is a little bit more challenged because cable is continuing to lose subscribers basically until that starts to get figured out. So we'll see where it goes. NASCAR basically lost a summary judgment on the market definition of premier stock car racing. They wanted it to be that these teams could be eligible to go race in IndyCar or another series, and therefore NASCAR doesn't have a monopoly on premier stock car racing. They lost that summary judgment, so much so that even racing the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series would not be commensurate to racing the Cup Series, and therefore the market for monopoly has been so well defined and specifically defined as only the Cup Series. It most likely is a bit of a blow to NASCAR in this, the possibility of where this goes at trial. And
it seems like trial is imminent. There's no settlement that's been made yet.
Yeah, I was told that it all, this was continued off what Jordan Bianchi reported last week, that even the settlement talks continued into last week, and that it simply centered around who was going to pay the legal fees. So it sounds like they have been able to get to a better place. Obviously, with NASCAR's financials coming out, that was something that I think, they were maybe hoping to settle before that happened. And I did see this report by Bob Pockrass that one of the pretrial motions is how much personal finance info should be allowed, and that 2311 and FRM want Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's personal financials to be off limits. NASCAR says they're fair game, but if off limits, then Jim Francis should be as well. So trying to decide what is and isn't allowed as we go further. One last
Michael Jordan's personal financials.
I did too. It's like, ooh, hey, that's kind of interesting.
I mean, if you want this thing to make international news,
oh yeah,
then let's get Michael Jordan's personal financials out there.
Here's what I do know. Do you want to know what I do know? It's more than yours and mine combined.
Combined? You think?
I think combined. Yeah. I would be willing to bet, unless you're hiding something I don't know about. In which case, God. I'm taking my 50% of Money Lap.
That's interesting. That's wild. So
yeah,
well, this is going to come up fast. This is happening fast, which we've got a couple shows here. I don't know what our plan is for week off with Thanksgiving, but I guess we'll get there. But I was sort of just saying it generally that the court date on this is what, first week of December?
Yep. December 1st. So we're rumbling towards it fast. I do still question if there could be a chance for a settlement, but maybe not. I was hoping that Denny would win the championship, and then on Tuesday night in his speech, he would announce they settled. But that obviously didn't happen. None of that panned out the way I hoped. So we'll see where this goes. One of the threats and situations that is arising from this, if this really does go to trial and NASCAR was to lose, there's a chance the charter system is in jeopardy. There's a chance NASCAR has to sell tracks. If the teams lose, I think it's a big question mark if 2311 or FRM exist past that point. So I think no matter what, if this goes to trial, there are going to be massive changes. And I think the similar sentiment that a lot of people have had, which is at least in the short term, nobody probably wins. In the long term, who knows? So
I think even if it goes to settlement, there's probably going to be massive changes, right? At least then NASCAR can define what that's going to be, as opposed to the judge ordering what the changes need to be. So
yep. I think that would be a wonderful outcome if it went to settlement before this. But as you mentioned, it's going to rumble towards us quick. So you kind of allude to it. Here's our plan before we get into some reviews, and of course our buddy waiting in the green room. We'll do a show next week. We got one more week between us and Thanksgiving. We'll definitely take Thanksgiving off, and then so that means the week before the F1 race, and then after the last F1 race, we'll do most likely one. And we want to do a Q&A episode. So if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, we'll post about this. But basically, we're going to do a whole episode, Landon, where we're answering everyone's questions from out there. Because I've had tons of people come up to me and say they're listeners and they love this show, and so we're going to answer all those things for you guys. So stay on the lookout for that.
With fans on, or just reading the Q&A questions?
I never thought about doing it live.
TBD. We could also accept voicemails on moneylap.com.
That might be the easiest way to do it.
That would be kind of cool.
Voicemails, or send emails, friends@themoneylap.com.
Here, you know what? If you're watching on YouTube or you want to send us an email or just whatever, let us know if we should do it live or not, but you'd have to watch if we're going to do it live. So we'll see. We did love those live shows. We'll see if that's a possibility. Let's do some reviews. We did get a new one on Apple Podcasts. 5 stars, banger pod here. Started listening to the show regularly this season. Landon and Parker always deliver on insights into the sport with unique ideas and perspectives. Keep on keeping on. I look forward to this show every week. That's JMoney543. We appreciate you, buddy. On Spotify, Jacob Berg said, is it a podcast or a show? Nobody knows, but the Money Lap is the best at what it does. Dirty Mo Media should take lessons from PK and Landon. I don't know if I agree with that. Those guys are the leaders. We appreciate you. Jonathan Havey said $1,000 for every a driver can say before O'Reilly's. That's from us talking about what Xfinity gives the drivers. Andy Miller, just buy the cheapest ticket and sit wherever you want to. Not sure what that means, but we're free here at the Money Lap. You get it for free. All this wonderful, great motorsport stuff.
Keep going.
I think that was a preliminary answer to whether or not we should do the Q&A live. We'll sell tickets at different
we'll sell
rates.
tickets. For GIF Fernandez on YouTube said, first time checking out your podcast. Great job, guys. I just subscribed. Thumbs up. We're going to have to tell them. It's a show. Thank you, though.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got Ty Rich 82. Couldn't begin to tell you how happy your channel randomly popped up in my feed. Instantly subscribed. And this guy, Joey D3324, said, me too. Gotta love that. We've been blowing up on YouTube. YouTube, our numbers are going crazy. So we appreciate all of you watching on there. As we've said, we can't believe it because it's against our best intentions. But with that, should we bring him on? He finished 5th this past weekend. Top 5. Nobody knew about it. We got Kyle Busch here. Let's dive into everything with this guy. It's awesome. Oh no. Is my mic working?
Nope.
No, it's no.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Money Lap. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends. We want to spread the word of great motorsports shows, of which we're somewhere up and around there. I'm not exactly sure where, but nonetheless, you can also reach out to us anytime on across social media or at our website, themoneylap.com, or at our email, friends@themoneylap.com. And, of course, you can always leave us a review. 5 stars gets you on this very show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.